Orcs! These funny little green guys have been a staple concept since the dawn of the fantasy genre itself. You know them, you love them, but if you're a fan of Warhammer 400 and 1000, you know that there's orcs, and then there's orcs. I hope it's obvious I'm pronouncing one of those with a K. Hello, my name is Ethan Cat, and this is Path of the Warboss, a barbarian subclass for 5th edition Dungeons & Dragons based on the Orks of Warhammer 40K. A little while back, I decided to sit down and think to myself, how would the factions of Warhammer 40K translate to classes in 5th edition Dungeons & Dragons? When I got to the Orcs, I didn't have to think very long. Barbarians' wrathful rage and incredible durability makes them the perfect avatar for the green tide of the 41st millennium. Also, when I was sitting down trying to figure out what this subclass's key mechanic would be, I just ended up making the rage mechanic again. But worse. So sit back and relax as I take you through the key features of this homebrew subclass, all of which you can download for free on my itch.io, artofthecat.itch.io. Some people are asking me questions about this, and yes, this homebrew subclass, as well as all of the other subclasses I've made prior, are available to download for free on my itch.io. I think when you go to download them, there is a little box that says name your price here, but you can just put 0. It's fine. You have my permission. If I did want to make money on this, I would put it into a book, sell it at conventions, and also make it really horny. So with all of that out of the way, let's get stuck in. Oh, that's a thing that the orcs also say. That was very clever of me. Once you take this subclass at 3rd level, you get Brutal Cunning. Starting at 3rd level, you gain proficiency with improvised weapons. While wielding an improvised weapon, you can replace its damage die with 1d6 if it's not already higher. This damage die increases to 1d8 once you reach 6th level in this class. This is just a little thematic quality of life feature. Orcs are known for slapping together a bunch of scrap metal and beating the shit out of their enemies to death with that, so I figured why not give you the ability to do that in 5th edition D&D. Disarmed and locked up in a prison cell? Don't worry, the piss bucket will do. But again, this is just a small thematic quality of life feature. The main feature you get at 3rd level is War Cry. Starting at 3rd level, your rage is elevated with a burst of adrenaline and a fearsome cry of war. When you enter a rage, you get a number of war dice, equal to 2 plus your proficiency bonus. These dice are d6s and can be expended in several ways on your turn, as detailed below. You can increase your movement speed by a number of feet equal to the number rolled on your war dice times 5 until the end of your turn. After landing a successful melee attack, you can increase your damage dealt by 1 roll of your war dice. Before rolling an attack roll, you can choose to increase your roll by half the number rolled on one of your war dice, rounded up. Before making a strength or constitution check or saving throw, you can increase your roll by the number rolled on your war dice. When targeted by an attack roll, you can increase your armor class against that attack by 1 roll of your war dice. When you stop raging, you lose any unspent war dice. If it isn't immediately obvious, this is calling a Waaagh. When I was trying to build this class, I knew that distilling the Orks Waaagh feature from the 40k tabletop game would have to be a key component of the subclass's features. When you think about calling a Waaagh in a game of 40k, you're essentially giving yourself an incredible boost to your offensive and defensive capabilities, and then you basically don't have your key army feature for the rest of the game, unless you're taking the Noblads detachment or whatever it's called. I explored a couple of ways to try and translate this feature into the mechanics of 5th edition D&D. Most of which just had me reinventing the rage mechanic. It was a tough balancing act. Most of my early drafts essentially had features that were incredibly powerful but could only be used once per short or long rest. This meant that the Barbarian would be absolutely bonkers overpowered once and then just kinda boring for the rest of a session. I settled on the use of war dice for 2 reasons. 1, it allowed me to give the player a series of offensive, defensive, and utility features. Barbarians are very durable and very damaging by default. Most of the Barbarian subclasses lean into either the offensive or defensive capabilities, never really both, because then you get a little bit too broken. For example, the Path of the Totem Warrior Barbarian allows you to be resistant to all damage except for Psychic, while leaving your overall damage output unchanged. Alternatively, the Path of the Zealot Barbarian allows you to do extra damage on your melee attacks, but doesn't give you any extra defensive capabilities, except for making it easier to resurrect you when you die, which is helpful, I guess. With the Warcry feature, you can choose whether you spend your war dice on offensive or defensive capabilities. For example, you could save your war dice to basically use a bunch of Barbarian smites on your melee attacks against your enemies, or you could dive into the thick of things and use your war dice to boost your armor class, preventing you from taking further damage. You have a lot of versatility to choose what you use these dice on and how this feature manifests, but much like the Waaagh feature in 40K, once it's done, it's done. Once your war dice are expended, you only have the basic elements of rage, which of course are resistance to non-magical damage and a slightly increased damage output. You can choose to use all of your war dice in a single round of combat to be extra potent just one time, or you could stagger them out over a fight, giving you a bit more longer durability. How you choose to use these boons is pretty much up to you, but once the war dice are expended, they're done for that entire rage. And I know that some tables like to use the rule where you can just use another bonus action to use your rage again, and if that's how you want to go about things, that's totally fine. But I mean, technically, there is the rule in the player's handbook that says you have to use a bonus action to come out of rage, meaning you would have to use a bonus action on your turn to come out of rage, and then use the bonus action on your next turn to go back into rage to replenish those war dice, which is a thing you could do, but it would just leave you vulnerable for a turn. And look, I know that's not how 90% of players play D&D in the modern era, but like, when you're making rules, you kind of have to go by the rules as they're written, because that's how game balancing works. But if you just want to say screw that and let a player burn through all of their rage charges so they can replenish their war dice turn by turn, go nuts. I can't stop you, I'm neither your dad nor the police. But anyway, let's move on to level 6. Starting at level 6, you get Hard as Nails. Starting at 6th level, if you take damage while raging, you can expend one of your war dice to gain resistance to that instance of the damage, if you are not already resistant to it. It's kinda just like a Barbarian absorb elements, which again gives them some extra durability at the cost of one of their limited war dice. Also at 6th level, you get Unbridled Carnage. Starting at 6th level, when you use a war dice to increase a damage roll on a successful melee attack, you can roll the war dice twice, expending only one use of your war dice as normal. One extra d6 of damage is like, that doesn't scale well at higher levels, so it increases to 2d6. Also at 6th level, you get Bust Some Heads. Yes, I know it's weird to get 3 features at 6th level, but this one's a weird one, alright? Starting at 6th level, you can use your allies to bolster your attacks. While raging, you can use a bonus action, or the bonus action you use to enter a rage, to allow an allied creature within 30 feet of you to target you with a weapon or spell attack, expending a war dice to do so. This creature can use their reaction to make a weapon or spell attack against you with advantage. If the attack requires a saving throw, you can choose to pass or fail the save automatically. You have resistance to the damage of this attack, and your next successful melee weapon attack deals additional damage equal to the damage you took from this feature. This bonus damage is the same damage type as your weapon, and you can deal this bonus damage until the start of your next turn. It is a known fact that orcs in the 40k universe can headbutt each other in order to get their buddies more hyped for battle. This can also kill them. You also might have noticed that I haven't written that there's any specific cap to how many times you can use this feature. There is a cap, I will remind you. It's called your hit point maximum. Some people might argue that this feature could be broken or prone to exploitation if your allies are things like paladins or high-level wizards. And to that, I say if you are willingly letting one of your players play a homebrew subclass based on the orcs from Warhammer 40,000, you better be ready for dumb shenanigans like this. But enough about level 6. Let's move on to 10th level. Starting at 10th level, you get Unbridled Carnage 2. Your special war dice attack increases from 2d6 to 3d6. It's like I said, d6 scaling, you gotta bump it up as you level up. At this point, you're probably fighting dragons and stuff like that, so yeah, you gotta bring your A game. Also at level 10, you get Fungal Physiology. Starting at 10th level, your body's resilience increases, granting you the following benefits. When expending hit die to regain hit points, any roll below half of the hit die's maximum automatically becomes half of the hit die's maximum. You have advantage on saving throws against poison and disease, and any lost limbs can be reattached to your body provided you have access to the limb. To do this, you must have Cure Wounds cast on you, consume a healing potion, or finish a short rest, all while touching the lost limb. In addition, spells that can bring dead creatures back to life can bring you back to life even if you've been beheaded, provided the spellcaster has access to both your head and your body while casting the spell.
Oh, that's so unrealistic, you can't come back to life if you had your head cut off. Oh.
Tell that to Ghazghkull. And finally, at 14th level, you get 2 additional features which make it so much harder to kill you. The first feature is the Warboss is never beaten, which is a dumb name, I know, but it's also a dumb name in 40k too. At 14th level, you can use your Relentless Rage feature even if the effect triggering it would kill you outright. Alternatively, you can use your Relentless Rage feature even if the effect triggering it would kill you outright without reducing you to 0 hit points. In this instance, you would still drop to 1 hit point if you succeeded on your Constitution saving throw. In addition, you can use your Relentless Rage feature when an attack or other damaging effect would increase your failed death saves to 3 or more, or if you roll a 3rd death saving throw failure. When you make a successful Relentless Rage roll in this way, your failed death saving throws reset to 2, rather than resetting you to 1 hit point. Making a successful roll in this way still increases the DC of your next use of Relentless Rage as normal. Relentless Rage is an incredibly powerful feature, but at high level play, certain spells like Disintegrate or Power Word Kill can overrule it entirely. With this feature, you will always be able to use Relentless Rage, even if the effect that's trying to kill you would otherwise prevent you from doing so. Additionally, if you're just unlucky with one of your Relentless Rage rolls and are dropped to below 0 hit points, you can use the feature while making death saves to prevent you from dying entirely. By the time you drop to below 0 hit points, your Relentless Rage feature probably has a high DC, which means it will still be difficult to prevent yourself from dying outright, but all D&D players live for those high-stakes rolls, baby. Picture this, it's the thick of the fight, everybody around you is dead, and the only thing that's preventing you from dying entirely is a DC 25 Constitution saving throw. For anybody else, the roll, physically impossible, but you're a barbarian, motherfucker. And more than that, you're the goddamn Warboss. Also, Power Word Kill is usually a cheap way for DMs to tell you to go fuck yourself, and this is a way to pull an Uno reverse card on that. And the final feature you get at 14th level is I meant to do that. I don't think this is a quote that's appeared in like any orc-based piece of media in 40k's history, but I feel like it's something they would say. When you're forced to use your Relentless Rage feature due to an instance of damage that's self-inflicted, or as a result of your own actions within the last round, you have advantage on the roll. There is nothing more orky than running headlong into battle and immediately dying through nobody's fault but your own. Let's be real, if you're the kind of person who's gonna play this subclass, you are gonna do some dumb shit that's gonna get you hurt. And I fully support this behavior. Throw that bead of fireball right down at your feet. Jump straight off that airship and hope to land on solid ground. Go up to a lich and tell him he smells bad. You are not a true orc unless you would be willing to go within melee range of a Primarch and tell him to his face that his father doesn't love him. So that is the path of the Warboss, and I hope you find it to encapsulate these big green bastards just as much as I do. And of course, you don't necessarily need to be an orc to play this class. You can attach it to any race in 5th edition Dungeons & Dragons if you want to play a barbarian maniac who likes to get themselves hurt. That's the best thing about D&D. Complete freedom, baby. If you want to play a Warboss of your own, you can download this subclass for free over on my itch.io, artofthecat.itch.io. While you're there, you could also check out a bunch of other D&D homebrew that I've made, and you can even watch videos I've made on these subclasses right here on my YouTube channel. Let me know what you think about the subclass in the comments below, or if you think there's another faction from 40k that I should try and translate into 5e. I'm not gonna lie, I might have already done some, and it may not be who you think. It's not Votann. I'm sorry, I have to break your heart here. Links to this subclass are included in the description below, as well as all my social links, which you can follow or ignore at your discretion. I always feel weird being like, follow me everywhere, because A, I don't want to make you feel like you're forced into doing anything, and B, everything's all algorithmic these days. Like, whether or not you follow me isn't really going to change whether you recommended my shit. Like, I don't know, like at this point I think I need an email list for letting people know anytime I've posted a TikTok. So anyway, like and subscribe. Let me know what you think below. And, yeah.